everybody. Thanks for joining us on Second Half Lounge. We're excited once again to have Dr. Paul Nussbaum join us. Dr. Paul is a clinical neuropsychologist and an adjunct professor at the University of Pittsburgh Medical School and is a leading expert on brain health. So, Dr. Paul, thanks for joining us this morning.
Great to be back, Doug.
And so tell us, what's the big deal about sleep and brain health? I mean, how do they go together? I think I understand it about this much.
Let's look at it from two different perspectives, the neuro and the psychology, okay? The neuro, as you pointed out in your piece, sleep is a very active period of the day for our brain. It's actually a period of time when our brain is consolidating information that perhaps we processed earlier in the day. So from a neuro perspective, a lot of the structures of the brain that we've talked about on Second Half Lounge, the hippocampus in particular, that critical region deep inside each temporal lobe, is functioning and running pretty aggressively. That's the area of the brain that helps us make more solid what we learned that day. Probably the emotional center of the brain, the limbic area, also critically involved because we wrap a lot of emotions around the information that we're processing. So in short order, sleep helps us make more solid that which we're trying to learn. And if that occurs, then, for example, kids are going to do a little bit better in school. Older adults, for example, may be able to hang on to information a little bit better, and the rest of us are going to be able to process at a deeper level because of a healthy night's sleep. That's the neuro part.
Okay, so the fact that I have always tended to just kind of go with the I'll sleep when I'm dead mentality, that's probably not so good.
Not so good. Your brain, you know, the interesting thing is your brain, and we've talked about how I think about the brain as a miracle. The brain sort of gives us all a chance to do the right thing, and if kind of we don't do the right thing, the brain steps in and says, okay, Doug, you ain't going to sleep, I'm going to sleep for you. And that's when we get into the sleep disorders, Doug, where you have something known as narcolepsy. And narcolepsy is just sudden sleep. Your brain just falls asleep. The scary thing is it can occur while you're driving. And there's a lot of, and this is not funny at all, there's a lot of problems that occur, even unfortunately traumatic accidents that occur because the brain's not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, actually we dug into some statistics from the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, and it's actually amazing how much of that happens. So those little times where you're driving along and all of a sudden you realize, whoa, I can't remember the last 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. That's actually narcolepsy?
No, that's not narcolepsy. Narcolepsy is going to be a flat-out person just goes to sleep.
Oh, okay.
That's sudden.
Okay.
What you're kind of describing probably has to do more with a person needing to pull off and get some rest. What I'm talking about there is, you know, pulling off to a rest area, taking a 5 or 10 minute break, get out, get some fresh air because your brain is beginning to fall into probably a light stage of sleep.
Okay.
Boredom, you're just tired. You've been on the road a long time, whatever it is. That can be a dangerous sign. That's a sign to kind of pull over.
Okay.
You know, I think we have about, I don't know what your statistics are, but I think we have, last I checked, 35 to 37 million Americans, Doug, with a sleep disorder.
Yeah, it's upwards of that number. So
okay.
It's pretty amazing. Well, so like for instance, last night I got 4 hours of sleep.
Okay.
And so what I think I hear you saying is that anything that I learned that was new maybe didn't get seated real well upstairs because I didn't get the kind of sleep and the amount of sleep that I really need.
That's right. You're really talking about deep sleep. There's 4 stages of sleep, and you want to get as much deep sleep as you can. That's stage 4 sleep. Right around stage 4, you also go into a period called rapid eye movement. Your eyes are moving rapidly, and that's when we dream. We're actually paralyzed, and that's adaptive. Think about it, because you know, I know about you, Doug. I know the kind of dreams you're having down there. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. But you know, it's adaptive that we're paralyzed because we're moving in our dreams. You know, we're running or we're striking out or we're trying, whatever it is. So it's good that we're paralyzed. But it's that rapid eye movement period of sleep. About 25% of our sleep is rapid eye movement when we dream. And then that deep sleep that's critically important. That's when we consolidate the information. If we're not getting enough sleep, that means we're not getting enough deep sleep. And if we're not getting enough deep sleep, we're not processing that information to deeper levels like we talked about. Interestingly, older adults don't get as much deep sleep. And if you think about older adults, they're really doing well out there, but they'll tell you, you know, I'm not able to come up with words as easily. I'm not remembering as well as I could. They do really well when you give them cues and prompts, but it probably correlates with some of those changes in their sleep pattern.